So how's it, everyone? Tonight we're just going to have an awesome discussion with all you phenomenal women. And it just has to be easy and comfortable. Just share your experiences, any sorts of nuggets of knowledge that you have. And I think starting out, it's important to, acknowledge the strong women that led the 1956 women's marches. I'm sure we're aware of them. So those are Helen Joseph, Lillian Nyongi, Rahima Musa, Sophia Williams, Charlotte Maseke. So yeah, I think tonight we're just trying to carry on a bit of their legacy and, show up as women and try our best to be impactful and to discuss and have the conversations that matter. Because if we don't speak about the stuff, nothing's going to change. So let's try and be part of that change tonight. Sweet. So could we start by just introducing ourselves? Just say like one line, this is who I am, this is what I'm busy with, this is what I'm passionate about. So I'll start. I'm Carmen De Beer. I just am really curious about life. I think it's a really awesome thing and I think we can learn a lot from each other. And I'm studying chemical engineering in my third year at UCT. So Bianca, do you want to go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Bianca Vila. I think for me, it's just trying to be myself as best as I can, but also in doing that, creating a space for other women to do the same. So yeah, I'm a digital strategist at Dimension Data, very left field to what I'd studied, which was industrial psych, but absolutely loving the tech industry. And yeah, if you guys are looking for internships, etc., hook me up.
I am an architecture grad, but I'm currently doing freelance illustration and graphic design. And I'm just really passionate about spaces geared towards making women feel safe and able to just be themselves. And yeah, that's me.
So I'm Sunena, and I'll be the chair for this conversation. It sounds a lot fancier than it is. So like I said, I'm Sunena. Yeah, so I just recently joined the corporate world. It's been a very, very different and challenging experience, particularly being one of the very few women in a space that's predominantly white men and white European men, and feeling always like the minority when in a country where people of color are not the minority, right? So it's a lot of like figuring out like feeling like finding my place in like a country where I shouldn't feel like I need to find my place, right? Yeah, so I'm super passionate about representation as well as mentorship, and thinking and seeing that like by you just standing up and taking your place where you need to, you make ways for like so many other people to do the same, right? Yeah, so and I love having these conversations that we do here.
I'm Poppy. I'm in final year actuarial science at UCT. What I'm passionate about is self-improvement and the idea that what gets me up in the morning, because now being in honors, looking for jobs, and it hasn't been the best experience, and it's one that challenges me every day. So it's what gets me up in the morning and what can I do to be a better person. And it's also the idea of being a multi-dimensional woman, such that my academics is not only the thing that defines me, and that I need to build character in other aspects of my life as well.
Hi, I'm Jess from the Jess Ford Foundation, and obviously women's rights and child and women abuse is obviously a very big passion of mine. And yeah, we work every day to try and help women and children and men who have been affected by rape and sexual assault.
Thanks, Jess. Taylor?
Hi everyone, thank you so much, Jess, for joining us. When I reached out, I actually didn't expect a reply, so when Tiffany called me, I literally started screaming. I was like, yeah, I'm Taylor. I'm actually just passionate about people and just spreading love wherever I go. I have grown up in like a female-dominated household. I have two younger sisters, and my mom's a powerhouse. She's the most badass woman I've ever met. Also went to an all-girls boarding school, so I'm just passionate about women and being powerful women and just spreading love everywhere we go. And this is Colleen, This is my boyfriend's mum, and she's joining us today. Do you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I just feel, wow. I just think this is a dynamic group of women, and I just feel so privileged as a more mature woman to sit in on this and just to hear one young woman today expressing themselves. I'm a woman basically who found my woman's soul at Wits universities in the 80s, and a lot of stuff was going on. I was part of Black Sash, and it's sort of like, oh, it's quite exciting to peel this layer off. So I'm intrigued and I'm excited.
Yeah. Thanks, Colleen. Let's see, Zama.
Hi everyone, I'm Zama. Also feel really privileged to be included in this conversation. I'm a final year medical student at UCT, and I'm passionate about kind of seeing reforms in the healthcare system, being able to specifically serve our women in the public sector better than we're doing at the moment.
Amazing. Isma?
Hi everyone, I'm Isma. I'm currently a fifth year medical student at UCT as well. I'm passionate about women's health and helping vulnerable groups like refugees, etc. I'm also originally from Guinea, so I'm very interested in the West African healthcare system and the role that women play in the system.
Amazing. Ryisa?
Hi everyone, I'm Ryisa. I am a third year chemical engineering student at UCT, and I study with Carmen. And I am passionate about having these types of conversations with such lovely and such dynamic groups as you guys. And I just, in general, love having these talks and learning about what other people think, how other people think, and very interested in learning how my own types of perceptions of the world affect others and vice versa. So this is a privilege for me, and thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's Oba last, but not least, obviously.
Yes, that's correct. Hi everyone, my name is Oba Akir. I am a final year law student finishing up my degree this semester. What am I passionate about? I'm really passionate about, thank you. I'm really passionate about seeing nations live prosperously and peacefully. That's a really big thing for me. And so I'm very into public policy and development, particularly through empowering women and gender equality. There's been a link that shows gender equality linked to economic development. So I'm very interested in that. Yeah, and that's who I am.
What does Women's Day mean to you? And just the challenges you yourself face as a woman in this country.
What I think Women's Day means to me is that this country is built on many generations of women that have helped us get to where we are. And if you think of the Women's Day happening in 1956, those women are the age where they would probably be like our grandmothers type of thing, and thinking of like generations of women that have fought to be where we are and the privileges we have as women today. But obviously the fight hasn't stopped now. So I always say we have to echo the voices of women that made our dreams possible, but also we have to take the steps more, because there's so much more that we still need to do as the next generation of women, and make more opportunities available for the next generation, for our kids and their grandkids. And being a woman in South Africa, I can literally just give an example today. I was running for the 5-kilometer run for Women's Day, and that was a half-an-hour run, but how many times did I check the back to make sure that no one was following me? Or how many times did I have to check the guy that walked past me, that he wasn't stopping to look at me, or that he didn't turn around? And when the cars drove past me, how many times did that car drive past me again? And it's all this mental math that you have to keep in your head all the time, just being a woman in South Africa. Yeah.
I think Women's Day for me is, it's a bit more confusing because obviously you want to pay homage and, celebrate the woman that made certain opportunities for us possible. But I think the more and more I studied architecture and just like started being more aware of the spaces in South Africa, it just made me think that it's bittersweet because there are so many spaces in South Africa that just don't make us feel safe. And I think, especially since last year, safety is just the main theme that plays on and on in my mind. And thinking about how, for example, now with the lockdown, I've seen people are hiking and stuff. And the thought hit me that, I'd love to hike. But then it was like, but do I need to hike with like some guy friends? Do I need to have certain people around? Because if I'm just in this open field, like what could happen? And also, the more and more I make art, because the art that I make is very much centered around women. And I started realizing that intentionally I've been making art that kind of isn't the, how do I put this, the stereotypical women are strong, women are fierce, women are rocks, because I feel like that almost it dehumanizes our experiences, and it makes people treat us as if we can go through all of these things such as violence and stuff like that, when that's not the case. Like, we need to be treated with care. We need to be treated like softly, for lack of a better word. So I don't know, like, especially today, I think Women's Day, it wasn't like sort of like a happy Women's Day moment. It was just kind of like me reflecting on all the things that we haven't achieved yet. So yeah, that's how it makes me feel.
So I think I also had that conflict in celebrating Women's Day. Firstly, it's like, we're in 2020, do we still have a specific day where we're like, now we get to celebrate women once a year, right? Yay. But I mean, I understand the historical significance around that, right? Experience of joining corporate this year. So I went to a girls-only high school. I studied economics, where a lot of the class was like split, half men, half women, right? So I didn't really see that inequality. I mean, like, you always think it exists. You always like, yeah, corporate white man. Until I got there, and I'm like, oh my God, corporate white man. Like, it's just insane just how majority of the managers or the top people in the company are just men, right? And just the dynamic of I joined my first case, and there were 10 of us, I was the only woman there, right? My first case as a junior, the only woman and only 2 people of color in the entire case team, right? That was a difficult experience, and I think something I maybe only started realizing after I had left the case was like, and I had gotten certain feedback of like how, like, we get like performance reviews, right? And really understanding certain things about how I was told I was shy, I was timid, I need to speak up more, I tend to be overlooked. And so, okay, cool, like, I know there's some like individual characteristics about myself, and yes, I was shy in the beginning, it was my second week there, right? But thinking, okay, was it because I was the only female voice in a group of really deep men voices? Was it because I couldn't joke or have the same banter that they had? Was it because they all organized in to play golf, right? All the people in Johannesburg have decided to have a golf weekend and I wasn't invited. Not because my age, because someone my age was invited, but because I'm a woman. So it's like these small things that you just don't realize, and it gets almost disheartening the more you realize it, right? So I think, like, even when it comes to gender-based violence, like, there's a lot of things that I kind of like close my mind off and think like, I can't think about this today, or it's going to be really, really exhausting. And then almost dedicate like days to think about it, and then it becomes a really sad day, and then it's like you think about all the sad things in the world, and then yeah. So like, I think, like Pila said, it's confusing, and it's not like a happy, but then it's also, I think, and then the opposite side of like what Bhavani said, of like, it is a great time to reflect and think about how far we have come, but there's still a lot of distance to go, right? Comes?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I pick up on Women's Day is all the expectations that a woman should be. You know, everyone's like saying how strong a woman is, how empowered, how gentle, all of this. And it's like everyone's telling me what to be, but it's never just about being, it's never just about me. You know, I'm either too loud, I'm either too soft, I'm either too this, I'm either single, or I'm taken, or I need to be married, or I need to have a kid. there's forever these demands that is shoved onto us. And it's never just enough to just be a woman, just be a girl figuring out her stuff in her 20s.
Thinking about this now, and obviously, you know, on Women's Day, especially because of how much social media has grown, you see everyone posting, you know, pictures on their stories, or posting, like I just posted a photo of me and my mom and my two sisters saying like, happy Women's Day from my girl gang to yours, like these powerful women. And all of the girls that I follow on social media and friends and mutual friends are posting all these things, and there's very few boys that do it. And I think my thing about Women's Day, and just in general, everywhere I go, I try and bring it up in conversation. I mean, obviously Colleen's got 2 sons, and I'm always very vocal about like trying to talk to them about it and say, you know, Women's Day isn't just for women to support women and look back at how far we've come. It's for men to actually acknowledge that we're equal with them as well, and to acknowledge our strengths as well, which always makes me quite sad on Women's Day, because it's so empowering to see all of these women on your social media speaking up for each other and celebrating each other, but very few men do it. So yeah, it's also a very happy but sad day too, I guess.
What makes me feel empowered, I think, is when I see someone younger than me come up to me, or maybe not necessarily even an age, just maybe an experience, come up to me and ask me, how did you do certain things, right? And I can see that they've come up to me because they probably relate to me on how they look, being a woman of color, right? And I think that's when I feel my most empowered, because it's like I've not just made or broken a certain barrier just for me. I've now created space for everyone else that don't feel empowered, right? So I know that's definitely when I feel the most empowered. Whether it's like something small about like, I don't know, or just anything. Like I think I've been getting a lot of messages about like joining management consulting and joining corporate, and people asking me like, how did I do it? That's when I feel the most empowered, because I know like in my mind it's like I just did it, but I don't realize the actual like barriers I've had to like overcome to actually get there.
So yeah, on that, making me feel empowered, I think maybe not making me feel empowered, but necessarily me being a mechanism to empower others. So for instance, like in the academic world, or like in our class of like 100 people or so, so I'm like one of the class reps, and it's one of those things where just being in a position where you are able to voice other people's concerns, so you're just a platform for that, and making sure that everyone's got their say, and it's kind of whoever you are, whatever your issues, any sort of whatever background you come from, everyone's got this basic platform to have their issues heard and their say said. So I think for me, it just that servant leadership, which is something that I've always admired in any leader, is leading for others and not leading for the point of leadership. Something like that is what brings me joy, I think, more than just feeling empowered as well.
So I'm actually really lucky. I just want to say, first off, these conversations make me feel really empowered. But I'm also lucky because I do my own online business, and it's very woman dominated. It's part of the beauty industry and online and everything like that. And I'm part of tons of groups on WhatsApp, of teams, and coordinating and helping people. And at least 3 times a week, there's a Zoom call or a presentation with women higher up in the business than me, or women on the same level who are just doing amazing things and creating these lives for themselves. And it's just these powerful women presenting and giving you tips and helping you grow in your own business. And it makes me feel so empowered leaving those groups, knowing that there's so many women around South Africa that are leaving those groups feeling more empowered as well, which is just a really great feeling.
Quite a lot of reflection over the last few years, and I think I lived a very sheltered high school life. I know I've got a lot of my girls from Saints here as well, but I think it's being part of these sorts of conversations and spaces, having a lot more women's voices heard, especially those of color and of different genders and sexes, and I'm really enjoying learning. And I think it's it's just taking a seat back, acknowledging the faults that you've made in the past and actually educating yourselves, be at these spaces, learning and reading. And I think the more accountability, especially as white women, that we're able to take and just open up a little bit more space for women of color and different genders to take shape, I think is really cool. It just makes me feel really proud and empowered.
For me, so just to add context, I recently graduated from architecture undergrad, and basically in your 4th year, you kind of have to do like work experience to get like practical experience before you go back to honors. And I think just with like the way things have been going, like job opportunity wise, and then adding the pandemic to the mix, I was just finding it really hard to get just a job in general. So what started off as me just kind of posting artwork and like graphic design stuff kind of moved on to me like getting opportunities from that. So like basically my freelancing was me finding another route because I couldn't really find a job at the time. And yeah, so for me, it's just been interesting seeing how if I really can't find a way to make like ends meet or whatever, like I just found another route for myself, and it turned out to be like a better route for me given the situation right now, because I can fully work from home, and because I'm freelancing, I kind of like do like kind of determine my own hours. But yeah, it's been a crazy ride, but it was nice that in the midst of everything that's happening, I could at least sort myself out job-wise.
I'm so grateful that Pila spoke about, you know, speaking about being Black, I suppose, and going into these spaces that are predominantly white, or at least dominated by white people. And I suppose my link would be to say that I feel most empowered when someone who looks like me succeeds in any sector or industry or enterprise. So to hear that Pila has been offered so many opportunities and has been featured in a number of publications in different areas, that for me is encouraging, even though I'm not in architecture, I'm not in medicine, I'm not in engineering. But to know that there are people of color who are making progress in their career trajectories really excites me. I know when I was growing up, I come from a household where anything is possible, right? So if you wanted to be an architect or you wanted to be a space shuttle engineer, that was possible, right? As long as you had the marks for it, and we encouraged dreaming. And so there was never really a feeling that I was being limited in any way. And I think it was only when I started to sort of learn more about my politics and develop my politics in varsity, and to realize, oh my word, it doesn't matter what marks you got in high school. It doesn't matter, you know, how well you speak a particular type of thing. The color of your skin can be such a barrier to your career progression. That's when I think I started to get a little bit demotivated. And so for me, when I feel empowered when I see, despite the fact that, you know, we are looked down on for the color of our skin, we are still able to make strides and still able to achieve our goals. And that really makes me feel empowered.
What I wanted to add is, what makes me feel empowered is, it may sound superficial, but taking up space in places that are male-dominated areas. So one, for example, this might sound weird, but when a guy comes to me and he takes off weight off my thing, and I'm actually like, no, I'm adding them on. And they're like, oh, you're really strong, type of thing. And it's just kind of that, yes, I am, and like, don't judge me because I'm this tiny girl, you know what I mean? And also the idea of being in like a male-dominated career. But as Bianca said, that like having these conversations, we saw two different experiences. Like we saw Sinena's, who has worked really hard throughout her university, and her first project, she was the only woman, and like two people of color in that group. And then you had someone like Taylor, who had like such amazing support, and like the femininity and girls supporting girls was there throughout her business. And it's just so important to have these conversations, because I could imagine for Sinena, this is actually quite exhausting. And that's how I feel too when I'm applying for a job. And when you see the brochure that they put up and it's predominantly male, and it can be different male of color, but mostly male. And then there's one female in the brochure and it's generally a white female. And it's so exhausting because, as Oba Akir said, there was one company that where they actually talked to us and it was an Indian female. And it was the one company in actuarial science that I was like, oh yes, this is a company I want to be part of, just because I saw a brown female there and I said, maybe I belong there, because that's a question I constantly have, is that, yes, I'm smart enough to be in this degree. Yes, I'm strong enough to be in the weight section at GEM, but there's constantly barriers that are like where people are constantly seeing if you're going to fail as a woman and as a woman of color. And it's really exhausting as well when you're not getting job offers as well. And when you see the people that get the job offers too, and you're like, there's nothing you can do about it, because you know it's like similar grades and stuff, but it's my gender or it's my race, and it's quite exhausting sometimes too.
I think like a lot of companies have this thing where they say they hire for culture, but like what culture are you representing, or are you looking for if it's 80% white man, right? And this has been a big like annoyance in my life, because it's like you have these things that you tick, and then culture fit is such a big thing, which I guess makes sense, right? You're going to be working with these people all the time, but like companies really need to interrogate what they say about like when they say what culture they're looking for.
I'm going to switch gears a bit to what I think empowers me is to see the adaptability of women. I think so many women have to overcome so much and put on so many different hats. They have to be the sole breadwinner of the family. They have to raise the kids. They have to be this. They have to be that. And besides that, every month we go through cycles of changes in our own bodies. I just think the power of adaptation that we have as women empowers me.
For me, what makes me feel empowered is when I feel like I'm growing, or I'm challenging myself, or putting myself in different spaces I felt like maybe a year ago, or even a few months ago, I wouldn't even imagine putting myself into. I think for me, 2020 has been a lot of doing that, changing spaces and just changing the amount of space I take in conversations or in the space itself. And I feel like that's empowering for me. And I think for many years, it's always been, I think someone mentioned it earlier, that there's this label that women have to be strong, you have to be this, you have to be that. And for me, just being able to be strong and be vulnerable at the same time, to be compassionate and assertive at the same time, is such a big move. And just, I feel like as women, we are able to have that balance, which is great. And that's what makes me feel empowered.
I feel empowered when I feel seen and heard. And so what Bianca said earlier is really important to me. When I feel seen, in my entirety, I feel like here in this group, I feel like people recognize that I'm a woman. They also recognize that I'm Black, and they kind of understand and appreciate that there's something to that. Well, like we were saying, the intersection of our identities as well, feeling heard. Whenever I'm in a space where I feel like I'm being given a microphone, here, you speak, we want to hear what you have to say, I feel very empowered. And so just with that, I think it's important to create those spaces like you've done here, but every day. And then as well, I feel empowered when I feel like I'm able to affect change. That if I say something I don't like this, or I want something to be this way, there are actually things I can do for things to change where I am. So that's what empowerment really means to me.
There's another thing that I just wanted to touch on as well, as this concept of duality. And I think Pila was talking about the fact that acknowledging where we are today and where we've come with Women's Day, but also acknowledging how far we have to go. And I had this thought about the pressure that women are under. So as much as we're now advancing in the workplace, you're encouraged to be the mogul, the boss lady, but all of your home jobs, all of those chores still are extra baggage that we have to keep on carrying. And how do we enter all of those spaces with all that baggage Zama, you spoke about being compassionate and assertive, or I think Isma, it was you actually who spoke about being assertive and compassionate. And it's all of this concept of duality as women, which is, I think, at the same time, as much as it's a lot of pressure and stress, also super empowering when we do start feeling like we're actually getting a handle on it. But again, to be compassionate with ourselves when we absolutely lose the plot and we have our tears and we cry. But yeah, that's just, I think, empowering, but also so much pressure at the same time.
Yeah, being a mum, I think, also is quite empowering, and also knowing that I've got two little souls that I can now bring up in the right way. So I think it's very empowering for me to know that I can teach my daughter how to be treated and how to respect herself and how to make other people respect her. And then for my son to obviously be a good man. So I think that's a very empowering thing for me. And then also, you mentioned earlier, everyone's always saying be strong. As women, we always have to be strong. And something that I've always said, and I think it's quite like relevant for this, is that when someone says to you, be strong, instead of, you know, getting all defensive and being, oh, why do I always have to be strong? Just think of it as yourself being strong enough to cry and being strong enough to ask for help, because those are two of the most difficult things to do, and those are two things that women can do. So it's important to have that structure and that team of people around you where you feel like you're strong enough to cry and you're strong enough to ask for help, because trust me, no men do that.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a firm believer in a good cry. So, and working from home has made it even better.